Okay, I think we're ready to begin. How is everybody? Yeah, this is kind of strange and interesting, isn't it? Hearing the voice behind the voice, as some may say. But yeah, thank you for all showing up. This is obviously a very interesting thing for me to be experimenting with, considering that I've never done live streaming of most types whatsoever. Yes, hello, hi everybody. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, it's currently 10 o'clock in the evening for me, so wherever you're sitting, I think most of you it'll be, what, early evening, early afternoon, whichever it will be. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I am a very plain-sounding northern lad, but what can I do? So, yes, thank you all for being here. First things first out the way, get all the sappy big things before I start going into what we're actually going to be doing in the stream. Sorry, I can't get over how people are flooding the chat already. Thank you so much. But yes, as you couldn't tell from the channel name in this, I am Paranoid DJ. I'm the guy who does the silly voices that you all like, as well as spend an inordinate amount of time doing loads of sound effects and such. So thank you all for continuing to support me up to the point of getting 40,000 subscribers. It's something that I honestly never thought that I would reach in my lifetime, just because I've been on and off YouTube for maybe around a decade now. So thank you all for checking me out and continuing onwards. Before I go into the schedule of what we're going to be covering in this live stream, just you may have noticed in the scrolling background at the bottom there that I do have some basic rules, but I'm sure you're all obviously mature enough to follow them. Number one, just be civil to people in the chat. Don't spam things. Don't, you know, go mental or anything like that, as you can see there. Number two, no political discussion whatsoever. It is a subject that drives me up the wall and it makes my head hurt, and we're not here for that. And three, if you act like a fool, then you'll be removed, because that's not what we're here for. So as long as you follow those three rules, everything's going to be wonderful. Yes, this is my normal voice. I have said a few times before that my normal speaking voice in terms of pitch is roughly equivalent to where Angel usually talks, so it's easy to slip in and out of him for me. At least I think so. But yes. Only good vibes. That's the whole aim of this silly little experiment that we've got going. Yes, yes, yes. So, the plan for this little stream is going to be, as it says on the tin, for lack of a better phrase. We're going to have a bit of a Q&A. You ask me questions, I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. The questions don't have to be limited to the dubs. They can be about me as a person, they can be about sound design, they can be about anything else like that. Within reason. I'll just say if it's a question I don't want to answer or whatever. And then after that, I'll be showing you a behind-the-scenes look at how I did the recent Temptation dub, including all of the effects processing for RoboFizz. And I'll try not to get too audio techy in terms of how it all works, but we'll get to that point. So, without further ado, and because I'm going to be waffling on forever, because that's a really bad habit of mine, we'll move on to the Q&A. So, ask away. I will answer as best I can, and just be aware that there will be a slight delay between me reading your question and answering it because of streaming. There's a slight delay between when I see it and when you'll hear it back. So keep that in mind, but thank you. So, first question, where am I from? I am from England, specifically the north of England, in a little county called West Yorkshire. My accent is a little bit tinged with southern England, because I obviously worked with a lot of Southern students when I was at university. But yeah, that's where I'm from. How am I? I'm doing fine. Honestly, a little bit nervous, because I've never really done a live thing like this in any capacity. But it seems to be going alright so far. Scotland gang represent, thank you. It's only a couple of hours drive away. Next, do you prefer Has-Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss? It's very difficult for me to say which one I prefer. Has-Been was the one that I saw first, and obviously, but obviously we're getting a lot more Hell of a Boss now, so there's a lot more to judge it on compared to the pilot of just one show. I'd say they're about equal for me, in terms of which one I like the most. Do I have any other social medias like Twitter or Instagram? I don't have either of them. I'm not a very big social media person, mainly because I'm not very good at promoting myself in any capacity whatsoever. And I wouldn't really use Twitter or Instagram to post up anything of note, because obviously most of what I do is sound. I also say obviously a lot, so I apologize in advance for that. If you want to get in touch with me, there's a link on my channel for an email if you want to speak to me or ask about collaborations or anything else like that. That's the best way to reach me. Am I planning to do a face reveal? Probably not, because this is the first time I've ever spoken with you lot live, but who knows, maybe in the future. What made you start doing Has-Been Hell of a Comic dubs? There's a very peculiar story about that. So, a bit of background into how I actually do these things first. When I went to university, I studied popular music production, which means, you know, I have a degree in sound design and sound production and stuff like that. So, I transferred a lot of those skills to making personal music projects like remixes, original works, things like that. The comic dubs are kind of an extension of part of that degree. One of the subjects we had to do in the degree was, we were given a video, and we were basically told, here is the video, add all the sound to it. So that included all movement sounds, all ambient sounds, voices, everything like that. And it was the subject that I did the best in outside of computer music production. So I kind of already had that knack for doing something like that to start with. As for what made me do the comic dub, 2020 was an interesting year for me, not obviously because of the big reason that we're all stuck indoors, but mostly because there was a personal incident in January that kind of made me reevaluate a lot of the stuff I was going to do. I realized I hadn't been active on YouTube. I hadn't been posting a lot of music for a long time. Has-Been as a series, after I'd watched the pilot, had been helping me through a lot of that, just because it was nice to throw myself into something that was new. So I was keeping up to date with the comic of Angel. It was only half released at the time when I first saw it. Like, what is it, the first 8 pages, I think it was? And I was basically watching that, and I was practicing just mimicking him for fun, trying to do the voices and whatever. It's something that I've always been told I can do. I'm a natural mimic when it comes to doing goofy voices and the like. So I was just messing around with it, and I was watching it, and in my spare time I was just, you know, adding sound effects. I was adding bits and pieces at a time until we got the 8 pages. And then the rest of it came out. And that was the moment that I realized, oh, there's actually going to be more to this series than I realized, because they're going into quite a serious subject matter, which wasn't really explored in the pilot episode. And I don't know, I just kind of threw it together for fun. Yes, Doctor Who. I'm glad someone realized what the backing music was. And I just threw it together. I got Dragon Scale to help me, because obviously I can't do girl voices, try as I may. Although that will lead to a bit of trivia I'll tell you about later. And I just threw it up on YouTube after that, and I just didn't think anything of it. I hadn't been active on it for about maybe 3 years at that point, so I was really not expecting anyone to watch it. And then as time went on, I just saw it kind of exploding. Like, you know, first it was like 100 views, then it was 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. It just kept getting, you know, escalating out of proportion. At first I thought, oh, it's just a temporary thing because, you know, Has-Been's the popular thing at the moment because of the comic. And then it just kept going, and then before I knew it, it was 1 million, and the rest is really history. And then from then onwards, it was just kind of inspired me to do more, I suppose. You know, as you do. Whose voice is easier to do? Angel Dust, Valentino, Vox, or Alistair? Angel Dust is the easier one to do, just because he's closer to my natural range of speaking. So because my pitch is similar to his voice already, it's pretty easy to slip in and out of how he talks, you know? But the others require a lot more forethought and how I need to say them. I need to remind myself of how to voice them. So with Alistair, you need to remember to be more of a showman. With Vox, I need to kind of pitch my voice down a little bit. All that other stuff. But so yeah, Angel's the easiest, but the other ones, I just need a bit of time to get back into them after I work with it. Yeah. Where do you find most of the comics you work with, and do you make them? I do not make any of the comics that I dub, whatsoever. All the comics I do are made by very, very talented fan artists who I always think should get pretty much all of the credit for what I do. And, you know, I'm just the guy who adds sound. The people who draw these things, I wouldn't be able to do half this stuff if it wasn't for that. So please give them all the support. In terms of how I find them, I just search. I see what's popular. I see things that grab my attention, that people share around, that other people show me. And I usually have a couple of criteria for choosing one. It needs to be one that is either almost complete or is complete. I don't like doing what I've seen a lot of other dubbing channels do in terms of like half comics where they do like a part one before it's actually finished or anything. The exception to that would be things like Rescues and Revelations, which were clearly defined as part one, part two, but I need them to be finished because I don't like leaving it kind of half empty. Which is the reason why the Alistair one took so long, because they released that in parts too, just like the Angel one. And apart from that, if I just find the subject interesting, if there's a lot of chance for good dynamic acting, or, you know, chances to be dramatic, then I'll just pick it up. And a lot of the artists I pick are very, very talented people, and they continue to make really, really good stuff. So please give them all the support more so than me. Thank you very much, Call 8. It's always appreciated. How did you come up with Val's voice and the effects you use? Valentino's voice is a happy accident. Basically, when I was doing the Angel dub, I was debating a couple of different ways to try and voice Valentino. I mean, the first thing that came to mind was obviously the stereotypical pimp voice, the really low, you know, think Rodan from Bayonetta voice, you know, something that I'm just not capable of doing because of my voice. With Valentino, though, I really wanted to emphasize his sleaziness. And his insect nature, obviously, because of him being a moth. So what I was doing for a lot of time, I was voicing him as low as I could make my natural voice go. And then I was messing around with some effects, particularly when it came to... it's a term called monophonic time stretching. It's essentially... I won't go into too much detail about it, but it is... a technique that is designed to try and maintain the pitch of a sound without changing a certain aspect of it. The downside of doing that to a voice like Valentino, though, is that it creates that buzzing, rasping sound effect, which fit perfectly for being an insect. And I thought, right, that's perfect for it, I'll run with that. And then people seem to really like it, so I've just stuck with it ever since. I can explain a bit more in terms of general voice production later on, But yeah, it's not so difficult to do now that I've worked out how I want to do it. Oh, another thing, there's also a very slight phaser on his voice. It kind of gives that a feeling that he's like whispering in your ear one way and then the other and onwards, which people seem to really like too. What program and mic do you use for editing and recording your videos? The microphone I've got is a Rode NT USB. It's the best I can do at the moment. I do want to upgrade to an actual proper analog setup rather than rely on digital. And as for the program I use to assemble it all together, that is FL Studio 20, with a bunch of plugins and a massive sound library of sound effects, which I will be showing later on, so I can show you how it all works. Will you do any more covers? 911 was so amazing. Yeah, 911 was a trip, mainly because I tried to pull off a trick in saying I wouldn't do both, and then I did anyway. But I'm glad you liked it. I do want to do more. The problem I have is that I need to choose right songs to do. I don't like choosing songs if they don't fit the characters. I won't just choose anything. So with 911, it was obviously very themed around the idea of drugs. It was themed around the idea of an abusive relationship, so it worked. With Alistair, it's an old-timey song from around his era-ish, so that worked better too. But yeah, I do want to do more. I do have some ideas for some, I just can't say when or what they are yet. Which is your favourite has-been cover? I'm assuming you mean in terms of cover song that I've done. I'm still really proud of Do What You Want, because that was the first major song that I did where I had my voice on it. And, you know, that was kind of like a big step to me, because I think I've got an okay singing voice. It just takes a lot of effort to get it down sounding like that. Something I learned on my sound design degree, which a lot of you may not know, would be that most singers who go to record into a studio, or if you're recording anything, they never ace it on the first try. Or if they do, they're exceptionally talented, which in that department I am not. So a lot of the songs are actually a product of take after take after take, and then choosing the best bits of all of them and then stitching them together. But because of how it ended up sounding, I'm still very proud of Do What You Want. I do like 911 just because it was a chance to do Lady Gaga. And all of the songs I've done have all been a good chance for me to practice making the instrumentals of everything as well, because all of those are made from scratch by me, along with all the music. Would you look into doing a cover of Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra? Probably. I mean, Fly Me to the Moon is one of my favourite songs anyway. I'm a big fan of that old sort of jazz sound anyway. It's the reason why I chose Vera Lynn for the first one. So yeah, maybe. Do you do vocal warm-ups before dubs and covers? A little bit. Always make sure I have water on hand, especially if there's going to be a lot of screaming involved, which, given some of the Angel ones I did recently, that takes a lot. So, yes. Always make sure you drink some water, do some... I don't know. For me, I do like a range of low humming or just do general run-throughs of the lines without doing them seriously first, and then go from there. But you never want to start these things without a warm-up. Fun fact, actually, when I try and do Husk's voice, I can only ever record him just after I've woken up. Because my voice, as you can tell from this, my voice can't go as raspy as Husk can normally, but when I wake up, I can. So all of the lines of Husk that you heard in the Rescue and Revelations dubs, all of those have been recorded shortly after I've woken up. So if you ever wanted the dirty little secret behind that, there you go. What is your favourite sound effect? That depends on the situation, but I love horror sound effects. I like gore noises, I like scare chords, I like tense music, I like background rumblings, I like everything like that. If I ever have a chance to do anything horror-related, like I did with the Silent Hill project, which I'm also insanely proud of, then I always like doing that. And speaking of Silent Hill, this soundtrack is Silent Hill 3. Listen to it, play it. It's a lovely, lovely game. How close can you get to the has-been cast voices without any editing? Well, Angel I can get close to very easily, just because he's close to how I speak. Alistair I can do quite well, but the impact is lost if you don't have the radio sound effects. Val and Vox need a lot of processing to make them sound okay. You know, if you just hear like the raw vocal take of me speaking it, it doesn't have nearly the impact as after I've run it through processing. Is Val your favourite character to voice, or is it someone else? Angel used to be the favourite just because I could do it easily, but I've come to really enjoy doing Val because he's just a bastard, in all honesty. It's just nice to be able to voice a character who's nasty for the sake of being nasty. I think it's something that I've missed in a lot of things. What is your favourite ship from Has Been Hotel? Right, I'll put this out here. Shipping to me as a concept in anything, whether it's Has Been Hotel or not, is... I usually don't dabble in it because I find that the relationships that they explore through the natural story are interesting as they are. In terms of Has Been, I do like a lot of fan art of particular ones. Like, I really like the Angel and Husk ones. I really like some of the Angel and Alistair ones. I like anything with Charlie and Vaggie just because they're sweet together. I've even seen ones where they're talking about maybe Serpentius and Arachnis, which was one that was part of a dub a while ago, even though Arachnis isn't even in the show, which I find interesting, but given the very, very scant information we know about him, it sounds cute. So basically to me, if I think it's cute and it's in character, I like it, but I can't say I have a preference on any of them. And I don't dabble into shipping culture for the main reason because of the drama it causes. I mean, even on some of the videos I've had, I have people in the comments just saying, good dub, but I don't like this ship. It's like, it doesn't matter. If you don't like it, why are you here? Etc. So if you had to press me on a favourite one, I couldn't give you one. I just like a lot of the stuff that people make, which is why I don't stick to one. I mean, I've done ones on Husker Dusk, as they call it. I've done ones on Radio Dust, as they call it. I've now done one on Pentness, I think is how they say it. I'm an equal opportunist as long as it's done well enough. Can you give some tips to make the laughter and voice acting more natural? I mean, it's a difficult question to answer, primarily because I don't think when it comes to sound there's a set way you should do anything. There's basic rules you should follow, such as don't be too loud, don't have too much bass, whatever. But in terms of how you approach voicing a character, that is entirely down to how you do it. So for me, it always has to start off with like a, I don't know, a beginning sort of, how can I phrase this? A sort of beginning laugh, which then leads into the rest of it. So for example, if you're doing like a, who can I use as an example for this? I'll give an example from Alistair. So when he does a laugh, there's a few different ways he can do it. He either has like a very showmanship sort of laugh to himself, or he has like the way that Ed voices him in terms of just like a quick like ha ha, or it can be it's always like a lead-in sound that then leads to the rest of it. So it's like ah ha 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 ha. I can't really explain it very often. Or, not very often, I can't explain it very well. But it just needs to be a case of listen to how the character laughs in the original source material and go from there. Always go back to your source material. It's very easy to slip away from what the original voice should be if you don't do that. That's all I can say. How do you channel the raw information? I'm so bad at reading today, I'm so sorry. How do you channel the raw emotion into your voices? Really, it's just imagine the mindset of what those people would be thinking in that moment. So for Angel, when I was doing the scream for 911, I was imagining in the little scenario I had that essentially the little fantasy that he had was going wrong. He starts panicking, which is why there's a little sort of a ah! Before he starts the scream. And then it's a case of just screaming, I guess. It's something that I always try to do last whenever I do a voice, a dub that requires that sort of effort, because it throws out your voice very, very easily. But yeah, all I can really say for any sort of tips that I can give about acting for anything is just practice and resort back to source material, get inspiration, watch how other people do it. Yeah. Thank you very much, Valentina. It's always appreciated. Will you be doing comics from other franchises? Yes, I am. I actually have some ideas for... I want to do a comic based in the Alien universe. It's an official one called Dead Orbit. I want to do that one eventually, which will be very difficult, but it's going to be fun. There's one for a Spider-Man comic, which I want to do, which may have Deadpool in it as well, but that's going to take a bit of practice to differentiate their voices. If there is anything else that comes up, yes, I don't just want to do Has Been and Hell of a Boss. I do want to do other things, but it's a matter of, again, finding something that is fun and is feasible with my setup. Are you searching for other people to help you with your dubs for now, or do you prefer to do the all-male voices character yourself? Currently for male voices, I like doing them on myself just because it helps me practice. It helps me broaden my range in terms of the kind of voices I can do. For female voices, Dragonscale has been too good a friend to me. I've known her for probably 15 years now, and she's just always been like, duh, of course I'll help you. Because she's nice like that. But, you know, sometimes she's not always available. She has her own life to deal with, and I can't be pestering her every waking moment. But, you know, in the future, if I ever need any other voices, then I will say so, and I will ask you all very kindly. Have you ever worked for a company to do sound design? I've done commissioned work for music companies who need instrumentals for songs before. I've also submitted music for horror sound effect libraries, so like they need like a 10s track for like horror trailer music. I've submitted work to them before, but that was quite some time ago. I haven't done anything like that recently. Do you charge for sound design or voice work? I've never charged for anything like that. Mostly because no one's really wanted to commission me for that, and honestly, with the dubs that I do, I wouldn't feel comfortable charging money to dub something that someone else has drawn. It feels like it's taking attention away from them. Which is why I always make a big deal to credit all the artists for everything that I do. Who is your favourite voice actor from Has Been Hotel or Helliver? Just say your favourite. I mean, the obvious choice would either be Michael or Ed, but purely just because I've watched his stuff before he did Pentious Stamper. That man is a cursed chaos beast blessing of a man, and I love everything he does. How many languages can you speak? Just one. Just English. I tried learning French when I was in high school, but it wasn't for me. Also, thank you, D6 Entry, for your compliment. Always appreciated. Can we please hear you sing a phrase of Barbie Girl in Angel's voice? Maybe. I mean, honestly, I've not talked at this length for quite a while, so I'll have to see if I can actually manage it. You should always take care of your voice, guys. Do you appreciate the amount of attention you get, or do you think it's too much sometimes? I appreciate every aspect of attention that I ever get. from any of you. I mean, the fact that like over 100 of you are here listening to me babble on about anything is already insane to me. So thank you all for that. And honestly, all the feedback and all the views that you keep doing and supporting me throughout everything I do, it's all appreciated. I wouldn't say to the point of being overwhelmed though, but thank you all. Hi Weirdo, thank you. Do you have any theories about the Has-Been story? I have none whatsoever in terms of how the story's going to go. The only thing I will say is that I think the way that some of the social media things have been handled have kind of spoiled a little few things that shouldn't have been spoiled to me, especially with the Instagram accounts. I know they've been rendered non-canon, but the content alone shows that there is a bias to the sort of thing they want to put out. That's all I want to... All I'll say about that, unless someone really wants to press me for it. Because I have very long-winded opinions, so I don't want to bore anyone with that. How does someone as amazing as you exist? I guess you're just all that lucky, aren't you? Are you going to be making more songs from Has-Been or even Hell of a Boss? I am actually hoping, if I can figure out a way to do the extended instrumental version, I do want to do a full version of You'll Be Okay. That's the next song I want to do. You want to be a voice actor? I mean, if I could get a voice work in an official capacity, I'd love to do that. Whether I will is another story or not, because as I said, I'm not good at promoting myself. At all. You seem like such a nice person to have a good long conversation discussion with. You'll say that until I end up ranting your ear off for 20 minutes on a particular subject I like. I mean, I have a personality where I latch on to things and talk incessantly about them, like using example of the backing music. If you ever ask me a question about Silent Hill lore, brace yourself. Channel nobody watches. I am from the north of England. It's not the common English accent that most people would think, but that's where I am. Can you rickroll us in Alistair's voice? How would you even rickroll him in Alistair's voice? Would he just say that you've been rickrolled, or would he actually start singing along with Rick Astley? We're no strangers to love! Do you think Michael Kovac sounds like Rob Paulson when he voices Angel Dust? Honestly, I don't know who Rob Paulson is. I probably would know him if I saw his face, but maybe he does. I'm sorry, Everlight. There's people are asking so many questions that I am trying to keep up as best I can. If I miss it, just say it again. I'll probably see it. Sorry. Favorite dub? Of the ones I've done, probably the Alistair comic. That one was such a massive undertaking to complete. Like, every single major scene of that comic was its own separate project that needed to have its own sound effects, own voices, all sorts of stuff. Assembling all that together was a challenge, but it was really fun. Because with that comic being so heavily based on what you see happening rather than what's being said, I knew I had to nail the sound design to make it sound as hopefully as good as I think it sounds. So yeah, I think the Alistair one is currently my favourite that I did. What is your favourite planet of the solar system? Jupiter. Giant storm that can fit 100 Earths in it, what's not to love? Do you have a job in real life? I did before the pandemic. Before the pandemic in March, I worked in a university bookshop, and I was basically responsible for the goods in and out. Before that, I worked in an electronics store. I was at both of those jobs for at least maybe 3 years. And after the pandemic, I've just kind of been making the most of my free time here. Is there anything I could improve, anything to... Oh no, don't get rid of that mascot, Has-Been Weeby. It's adorable, and I want to pet his head. I really appreciate you made that for me, it's nice. Favorite character to dub? It's varied a little bit. It used to be Angel, but I've now grown a very big attachment to voicing Valentino and Stolas, just because they're so huge contrasts with each other. Are you still going to use your Valentino voice when Valentino starts talking the show itself? I'll probably have to alter it, because I want to try and be as accurate as possible. It depends what they do. We'll see. Have you chatted or interacted with other fellow Has-Been a Hell of a dubbers, not just potential collabs, but enjoying their work and characters? I've been watching a lot of Carlos's stuff, like his Arachnis dub with Maddie's comic was fantastic. He does fantastic work. I think he is severely underrated. I think everyone needs to give his videos a lot more attention. In terms of anyone else, apart from the recent Siege Machine thing, I haven't really talked with anyone in that regard. I got a very important question. What makes you a paranoid DJ and not a regular DJ? Paranoid DJ as a name came about because when I was trying to think of a name for an artist name when I was trying to start make music, I was obsessed with DDR. And everyone who's played DDR knows the Paranoia series of boss songs, which do sound amazing, by the way. My name is just a rip-off of that, because it's spelt the same way. So that's the uninspired meaning behind my name. What do you think is most needed when it comes to voice acting? What makes someone good at it? Actually acting. It's all well and good if you can do different styles of voices, but if you can't act the script, it's not going to work. If you're doing like a very dramatic moment and you're voicing a character in a very certain way, you might be able to nail how they're supposed to sound in terms of where they're from and everything like that, but if you can't act the emotion behind that, that really lets it down. So yeah, you need to make sure that you nail emotion when it comes to voice acting, whether it's happy emotion, sad emotion, anything like that. Probably a reason why I chose a lot of dubs that required a lot of that, just so I could flex the muscles a little bit in that. Weirdo, I don't have anything set up for donations, but thank you. It's appreciated you would want to shove cash at me. Best way to contact me, Jurgensen, would be through the email on my channel page. Am I comfortable with swearing in dubs? Oh yeah, I'm actually really restraining myself right now because being from the north of England, I'm surrounded by family members and other people who do curse a lot. So I'm being very well behaved right now in terms of not swearing, so yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Yes, Weeby, pat his head for me. It'll be lovely. And see you later, Rolando. Thank you for being here. As for all of you, once again, I know I sound like a broken record saying all this, but yeah, thank you all. If I purchased any Has-Been merch, well, I'm currently wearing one of the Halloween Angel shirts. I have at least 4 or 5 others. I have a bunch of pins. I have the Alistair plush, the Angel plush, the Moxie plush, and Fat Nuggets is on his way, but obviously because of international shipping it's taking a while. But hopefully soon. Bella, favourite ships? I don't really indulge in shipping culture too much, but I do like a lot of the fan art I see of particular ones, so I can't really say I have a favourite. Again, I apologise once again, if I'm missing questions, the chat is going by so fast that I'm just having to pick and choose. Let me have a look here. Everlight, to answer your questions. How long does it take to make your videos, and could you do Disturbia? Easily could do Disturbia at some point. It would just take a lot of work to make instrumentation. As for how long videos take, that depends on the comic. As I mentioned earlier, the Alistair comic was at least 5 separate projects that was stitched together later, and that took a long time. I was having to add to it pieces at a time when more when more pieces of it came out. Or it could be something really quick, like the Virgin Sweater one. That was like maybe about an hour of work. It depends on the comic. Same with Rescue and Revelations. I was following the progress of that, and I was adding to it a piece at a time. So collectively, it probably didn't take me very long, but the process of doing it that way took a while. Favorite color? Green, as you can tell by everything on the screen being green. What got me into voice acting? It was always just because I could... From a young age, I've always had a knack for mimicking things all the time. Like, I would impersonate things I heard on the TV, I heard things like that. I never really started doing it in any serious capacity until this whole dubbing nonsense kicked off. It was mainly just because I could do it for a while, and I thought I'd give it a go, and apparently it seems to have worked. What audio equipment do you suggest for beginner recording artists? More than anything, just a decent microphone and as much noise cancellation as you can find. You need to make sure that not only is your microphone a high quality, but you need a pop filter, which essentially stops any P or B sounds, plosive sounds, distorting the signal, and that's unnecessary. And also any way to deaden the sound around it so you can get as clean a recording as possible. You can find stuff like that, like sound foam or little sound things you can surround the mic with on Amazon quite easily. Do you prefer doing shorter dubs or longer dubs, or does it depend on the content? It's either. Longer dubs take more effort, but they're more rewarding at the end. But shorter dubs are easier for me to finish, so I feel like I'm being more productive by getting one done. Heavenly Players, if there's a character I want to get better at, it has to be either Husk or Blitzo. Either of those two. I really struggle with those two. Blitzo because he is Brandon Rogers. If you don't impersonate Brandon Rogers perfectly, you're not going to sound like Blitzo. And Husk, just because the graveliness is really difficult for me. I've gotten better at it with time, but I still think those two are my weakest that I've done. Thank you, Justin the Fan, for being here. Thank you. Come again. God, it's like I'm running a shop. Have you ever wanted an animated background for a song cover? If anyone's willing to do one, I would happily commission people. I'm actually in the process of hopefully sorting something out with another artist who really needs more attention than she deserves. If you've ever heard of Pride All Day, she does like reaction videos. She's a huge Angel Dust fan, and she's recognized my work, and I got in contact with her, and so maybe we'll see what happens there. What is your mascot so you can make your fan art? I don't have an official one. Hasbin Weeby has drawn me one, which is pretty cute. It's a little robot, but I don't have an official one yet. You seem like the kind of person who would do a really neat Daxter impression. Well, Daxter's just a little gremlin, isn't he? I mean... I've been saying you're looking for you for 2 years! Say something just this once! That's the best I can do on... no, I'm not very good at getting into voice just out of the blue. Oh, Brandon, if you have any fan art, please send it to me. I always love seeing what people do related on my work. What's cuter, a baby bunny or a Pomeranian puppy? Bunny. Definitely a bunny.
The world is teeming with unnecessary.
Everlight, I mentioned it earlier, it depends on the actual comic that I do, or the music video. If the comic's quite long, it can be maybe about a couple of days solid work. If it's quite short, I can do it the same day, if I really try. Music takes a lot longer than that, maybe at least a week, because I have to recreate all the instrumentals from the background from scratch rather than use the original one, because I find it'll just be better that way. What was it about Hazbin Hotel that inspired you to make comic dubs for it? It was just because it was something new and I really liked the universe and the characters that were in it. And also, mainly because it was a sort of gross selfish desire to catch a current trend, I guess. But yeah, I just liked the world and I wanted to do something for it just for fun. And then it grew into this. How have you been spending quarantine? At home. The UK quarantine has been all over the place in terms of what we are and are allowed to do. It's much stricter than what people in the US have had to deal with. We've basically had countrywide lockdowns for almost a good solid year, and then they've come off again, then they've gone back on again, and it's all a mess. But I've just been staying at home. What's this music? This is Never Forgive Me, Never Forget Me from Silent Hill 3. Everlight, I answered the Disturbia one as well. I may do in future. It depends on how much work would be involved to do it. Again, I'll just reiterate. If I ever miss a question or you have to say it again, I'm very sorry. There's just a lot going by in the chat, so I'm trying to keep up as best I can. I was not expecting this sort of turnout. Thank you, Bella. Safe journey. And video reacts, thank you as well. I'm glad you've chosen some of mine to react to, which is very nice of you. What is your favourite animal? Any sort of reptile is my favourite animal. I actually have a female leopard gecko called Bean, and she is adorable and she's a darling, and right now she has stuck her head out of her dry hide and she's staring at me judgmentally, as reptiles do. So, yeah, and any sort of reptile. I am right-handed, Brandon. Can I do a good dub only with only a microphone, USB, and Adobe Audition, or is FL Studio better? It depends on how detailed you want to do it. For my purposes, when I want to do sound design, FL Studio is better because you have all the tools to actually arrange things and organize things in a sequencer. I don't use Adobe Audition, so I can't say how good it is in that aspect. What's your favourite and least favourite Has Been a Hell of a Dub you did? I'm most proud of the Alistair one. My least favourite is probably the first Hell of a one I did. I think that's incredibly weak compared to what I can do now. Yes, please love Bean. She is a very good girl. Do you make orchestral music? I've done orchestral covers in the past, using certain plugins, but they don't quite sound the same unless you're using really expensive sound libraries, which I currently do not have. Do you make your own sounds? Depends. Most of the sound effects I use for things like footsteps and movement tend to be from sound libraries that other people have recorded in Foley Studios, or, you know, stuff like that. Other sounds in my library are things I've recorded myself. For example, some mechanical sounds I've recorded from my own garage door. In Rescue Revelations 2, when Husk rubs his own head, that is me rubbing my own head. It's a mixture of both. Did a great job with Cinders. Thank you! I'm very happy with how Cinders turned out, although it took me like 4 different attempts of trying to do Stolas to get it to work. The I Am Paranoid is lowercase because it's a shameless rip-off of the Paranoia series of songs from DDR. That's where I got the name from. Writing songs on my own, I've tried. They've never been released or shown anywhere else because it's very difficult. Writing original music is a talent that only a few select people have, and they deserve way more respect than I can say for what they do. If I were to hire you for an audio drama to do sound design, would you do it free or would I have to pay you? If it was going to be for a full-length audio drama, I would imagine some probable payment, but it's not something I've ever thought about before, so I can't say. Also, Emmy, how can anyone not like fat nuggets? Come on. Other fandoms I want to do dubs for. Well, earlier I mentioned I want to do an Alien one. I want to do a Spider-Man one. I'd like to do another Silent Hill one, just because Silent Hill is near and dear to my heart. Bendy, if there is anything more that comes from that, would be fun to try again. Because that was the very first one that I did. And maybe when the new game comes out, we'll get some more, but, you know, it's a lot. There's a lot of things. Do you like old or new Stolas voice better? His new one is better. Brock Baker was fine for what Stolas was in the pilot, but for what they need Stolas to be in the series going forward, then Bryce is the better choice. Will you ever make your own comics? I'm not really much of a drawer in terms of an artist. My talents lie in sound design. But probably not would be the answer to that, unless I started practicing doodling things. What's your favorite horror movie? I have many favorite horror movies. I'm a huge horror buff. Most of the movies I have are horror. I really like The Grudge, both the Japanese and the American versions. I really like the Saw films. I really like... there's a lot of, like, individual sort of, not series-related films that I like that are good for horror. But a lot of Japanese horror is fantastic. Things like the Conjuring series. God, I'm just looking at my DVD collection now. There's so many. Yeah, it's difficult to say a favorite. I'll say that much. Do I like Evil Dead? Evil Dead is fun. I like Evil Dead. Kiss my grits. Do you like musicals? Have a favorite? I haven't seen a lot of musicals. But the ones I have seen I've enjoyed. I liked Wicked a lot. That's all I can really say. That's the only one that has the most memorable music to me. What do you think about reimagining a song for Dream On? Yeah, Channel, I've seen that one before, and it would be interesting to try, but it would be a lot of work. What, you think I can't say Christiana in an angel voice? Ugh, typical. I hope I said that right. Opinion on You Will Be Okay, song that Slow sang at the beginning of the Hell of a Boss episode 2. It's a lovely song, I just don't think the instrumentation's right for it. I don't think that using the electric guitar stuff really fit that well, but that's my personal preference. As a song, it's fine. It's good for what it is. Ever go to Ponytown? No idea what that is, I'm afraid, Everlight. Would you ever be up for someone to edit your dubs? If I ever wanted to do, like, more... you know, in-depth sort of interesting editing that I've seen a lot of other people do, maybe. But right now, I think the fades work fine. But never say never. Maybe in the future. Any chance you answer the questions in your Alistair voice? That depends on the question. I'm trying to... It's funny, I'm trying to really contain how much I speak, because I've not spoken at this length for a while now. So, we'll see. What is your favourite horror game, and what do you think about Resident Evil 8 Village? Now, it's interesting you mentioned that, because Silent Hill, the original 4, are my favourite horror games of all time, but Resident Evil Village has got my attention for probably the same reason that everyone else has got attention for it. A certain lady, we shall say. Have you ever seen manga made by Junji Ito? Junji Ito is a madman, and I love everything he makes. Will I ever do a voice request stream? Maybe. I mean, this one seems to be going quite well, so it's giving me hope for doing something in future. Come on, Christiane, open your ears next time. Do you think Has-Been connects different communities? In terms of backgrounds of people, I think it does, because it kind of unifies the fact that everyone can just be terrible and end up in hell, which I can get behind, and I partially agree with as well. Yes, I do use Discord. I just don't give it out. Whose voice is the hardest to do? Either Blitzo or Husk. I think they are my weakest attempts so much. Yeah, I mean, as I said, Angel's the one I can slip into and come out of. The other ones I need to practice with before I do it again. I'm very glad you like We'll Meet Again. It was very fun to make D6 entry. That's the background music. Yeah, this is still Silent Hill 3. Yeah, honestly, anything to do with Silent Hill, like, the music is wonderful, the horror is wonderful, the characters are wonderful, Heather is the best, and anyone who says otherwise is a liar. Will you ever do, like, a crack shit video where different Has-Been or Hell of a characters say random shit? I don't know what that is, but it could be fun. I just need something to say first. What did you think of the attic scene with Angel looking in the mirror? That was the moment that I realized they could do something very good with Has-Been. That they could actually handle something serious, rather than just be nothing but Harsex laugh. What kind of comics do you like to dub more? I like doing the ones that have more drama to them. Whether it's either Valentino being evil, or if there's some sort of thing between two characters. I like doing those more because it's a better chance to do flexing muscles for acting. But I like doing the funny ones too. I do actually have one ready that's based around Angel finding a set of underwear, which some of you may have seen. I don't know if I'll ever upload that one, but... What were your thoughts on both episodes from Hell of a Boss? The first episode was a good indication of setting the tone for everything. I felt the second one was better in terms of subject matter, but I don't think it was as well paced. But, you know, it's an ongoing series. There'll be positives and negatives as it goes on. We're only 2 episodes in. Can you do one of those Oh Ashley voices with Alistair, but replace it with Minnie? I was like, oh, Minnie. Do you ever cringe at the work you've done? Sometimes. I have to do a lot of retakes to do a lot of the dubs I do. There's a lot of times where I'll do takes and I'll just think, that was awful, I'm doing that again. Favorite food? Anything sugary. I am a massive sweet tooth. Although I have been doing everything I can in my power to not be lately. Which character that was introduced in the pilot are you most excited to see in the show? I'd like to see more of Pentius. I want to see what his deal is. I also want to see more of Cherry, considering with the Addict video we got a lot more of a potential for her backstory, but we'll see. Do you feel weird hearing your own voice like a lot of people? Well, most of the time it's not my voice, it's pretending to be someone else. Hearing me speaking back now is going to be strange, because I don't think my normal voice is very appealing. But if I'm hearing back a dub I've done, I'm fine with that. Would you ever share some bloopers? Most bloopers I don't keep. I'll do multiple takes. I'll explain this when we go into behind the scenes in a little bit behind RoboFizz. But most of the things where I do it wrong, I don't keep those recordings. I just get rid of them because they're awful. So probably not. Yes, Fernando. All the male voices are done by me. If I need a female voice, I usually ask for Dragon Scale's help. Although, that reminds me of the thing I was going to mention. In the Alistair comic, you know, there's that sheep that shows up at the end? The girl sheep who walks in and starts screaming for help? That's actually me. I didn't realize what gender they were supposed to be, apart from sounding very timid. So I did it just to throw it on there, and then I realized, hang on, if I muffle it, no one will be able to notice, but it's actually me. Are you self-taught in both audio design and voice acting? In voice acting, I'm self-taught. In audio design, I have a degree in music production. So all the actual ins and outs of audio tech, I am aware of at that level. Yep, I was the sheep girl. You just couldn't tell because of good old filters. Could you ever do saying a lot of things as blank video, where they send in quotes and lines for you to add as a video? In future, maybe. Maybe as a milestone I could do that. Just a matter of who the character would be. And of course, now people are saying, oh, I knew it was you! All along! Yeah, you'll never be able to unhear it now. That's me. This is the only hot insider information you can get from this stream. Any tips not to talk in Angel and Al's accents? Angel, adopt as broad a New York accent as you can, and slightly tighten your throat up using a finger and a thumb. And then you can just slip into it like this, and it's not even a problem. Alistair, just be... Think of the way people spoke on old radio, and it's just like, hello, my friends! And it's easy enough.
They fought endlessly, but death never came.
I love that you did it, so I'm like, yeah. Star Trek or Star Wars? Star Trek. My mum was a major Trekkie, so I grew up on Star Trek.
Feeling pity for the sadness that had overrun the earth, God.
Let's move to the next track on that one. Can I say I love your laughter? Yeah, I noticed some people earlier were saying that it sounds a lot like Valentino, which is interesting, because that's just my laugh. Yeah. Can you help me with a project I've been working on? if you want to get in touch with a collaboration, just send an email through the link, and we'll see what we can do. If I can do it, if there's anything else like that. Do you think Husker Dust is still a better love story than Twilight? Anything is a better love story than Twilight, and I think that's been said enough times for me to not have to confirm that. How long do you plan streaming? For whenever. I mean, right now it's gone past 11 PM, and we still have quite a ways to go in terms of explaining things, especially behind the scenes, because I'm going to be going very audio techie on that. But, we'll say it's just as long as I feel like, I suppose. Have you ever been to Disney World? Favorite Disney movie? I've been to Disney World more times than I can count, because I'm very fortunate being able to do so. It's my favorite place on the planet. I wish I could go now. I wish everyone could go now and see the wonderfulness that it is. Favorite Disney movie? Oh, again, I grew up on Disney movies. I can't pick a favorite. I've seen pretty much all of them. How are you so damn good at the voice in the has-been dubs? Practice and referencing the source material. That's all you need to do. No, I'll set that straight, Magnuson. The girls laughing in the Alistair dub and in service shopping are not me. In those instances, it's not me. Are there any of Vizzy's characters that you actually dislike? I wouldn't say dislike, I just think that there isn't really much to them at the moment. Like, Nifty's cute, but we know nothing about her. To an extent, I could say that about Husk, because the background information regarding him seems to change every other month. So we don't really know anything about him either, but they have potential. But I don't really dislike anyone. And yes, Cristiano, as I said earlier, I'm just going for as long as I feel like, to be honest. I don't know, maybe another hour, maybe a bit more than that. Oh god, no. Now you've mentioned that weirdo, yeah, Emperor's New Groove is probably my favourite. It's like the funniest thing Disney's ever made. It is no concern of mine whether your family has... What was it again? Food? Ha! You really should have thought of that before you became peasants! Everlight, if you want to get in touch about working together on something, send me an email. We'll see what happens. I don't know what I can do to help with that, obviously, because it's a comic thing, but maybe. When did you realize that Angel was easy to voice? Was it hard to do at first? It was difficult to get the sort of... the tightness in his voice when you're doing certain words. That was difficult to get at first. But that came along with practice, and also because Michael let slip the secret of how to do it. Pull the lever, Husk! Yeah, if you haven't seen The Emperor's New Groove, please go watch it. It's the best thing. It's kind of like what he said to you, except you got fired. I know, it's called a cruel irony, like my dependence on you. Yes, Eartha Kitt, rest her soul, what a legend. What do you think of the live-action Disney remakes? Trash. There's no need for them at all. How do I get Al to sleep with me? Oh, I know. I'll turn him into a flea. A harmless little flea. And then I'll put that flea in a box, and then I'll put that box inside of another box, and I'll mail that box to myself. And when it arrives, I'll smash him with me. Do you like dad jokes? They are the epitome of comedy. Can I say bye, Criminy? Goodbye, Criminy! Have you ever lost your voice while doing voice acting? The 911 scream almost made me lose it. Because I had to really try to get that screamer sounding as good as it was, and that almost threw my voice out for the day. Lots of water had to remedy that.
Let's do this. 1, 2, 3.
I'm sorry, I just really like how people are responding to my bullshit by just re-quoting other lines as these people. Favorite Disney villain? Hades, by far. Aren't we forgetting a teensy-tiny little thing? Sir Dylan, I am still looking into wanting to upload these to Spotify. I just know that Spotify, as a service, I know nothing about how it works in terms of anything apart from the money value of it, which I'm obviously not going to do, because I don't want to make money off other people's songs. Have your neighbours ever asked why you've been screaming in a gay spider voice? Well, next door neighbours have a very loud screaming 2-year-old, so they're usually dealing with him compared to me. No, dear Alistair, I am your father! You're giving me too much inspiration just to be idiot here. How many takes does a part mostly take? Individual voices will... I'll explain this more when I go into the RoboFizz voice, but I usually do a couple of takes per line, and then choose the best one out of that. But in terms of how long it takes, that's how long ever the comic is. How long have you been playing with voices? Probably most of my life, just being a mimic of things, I suppose. If I could collab with other people, I would be very pleased, but again, I don't promote myself, and most of those other people just do a great job on their own, so... Do you have any voice actors to inspire you? There's obviously a couple of things from my childhood. Jennifer Hale is flawless in everything she does. Helena Taylor, who voices Bayonetta, is just the best. She owns that forever. Steve Blum, James Arnold Taylor. There's quite a few I could name. Are there any comic dubs that you want to do but can't, like the voice to not sit for work? It's funny, people have asked about me doing some other comics that I start reading and I'm like, oh, this starts off good, and then it suddenly veers into, that's a dick. I mean, I don't really react like that to it, because I've been around on the internet long enough that stuff like that doesn't really shock me anymore. But it is a case of, I can't put that on YouTube, no. My accent is from the north of England. Mazina? I don't know how to say names. Would you say you're smart or dumb? Smart in some aspects, dumb in others. Best version of Valentino. Thank you! I'm still amazed that so many people think that. Narrate the B-movie fanfiction. That sounds like a horrible idea. it's not so much that they morph into porn weirdo, it's more so because, again, stuff like that doesn't shock me anymore because it's like every fandom ever has that problem. You know, that there's people on the internet be thinking downstairs, you know? But, what else can you do? Do you think that comic voices are easier to pick up than live-action content voices? Well, a lot of the comic voices I've done, they don't have official voices to compare to, so you've kind of got free reign as to what you think they should sound like. Matching them as they should sound is obviously a lot harder than that. Thank you, Sketchy. That's what I aim for. Where do you get some of your sounds from? Some of them are from sound libraries that other people have recorded and they've just put up for purchase. Others are things I've recorded myself. You're very welcome, Weeby. I'm glad that what I do brings joy of any sort to people. Oh, you're gonna fold the laundry, huh? Yeah, I bet you are. Vocal warming tips, I'm assuming you mean? Drink lots of water and save the really strenuous stuff for last. If you need to shout or scream, don't do it until the very end of what you're doing. If Viv's made a voice audition for Valentina, would you try out for it? I would, if the opportunity ever arose. I don't think it will, just because the show's been picked up by a studio, so they'll probably have their own systems for that now. But if it ever came up, I would. All I'm doing is saying names, dude. Do you have an embarrassing moment that you just can't forget? I do, and I'm not going to say what it is. I mean, a crate of Evian would probably work fine. It's still water, I suppose. God, it's so weird to think I've been streaming for like over an hour and yet you still have more things to ask all of me. I was certain that like maybe like 10 people would show up, so thank you. I just really hope that like nothing gets copyright stricken just because of the background music. You know how YouTube is. Favorite line from Hasbin and Helliver? From Hasbin, it is obviously the infamous exchange that everyone knows about. Ha! No. And from Helliver, I really liked Stolas' joke in the opening episode. Although it would have been interesting to hear how Bryce would have voiced it. Well, yes, Blitzy, but more people will die if nothing is done about it. The final vow at the end of Red Smoke is, yeah, that was fun. That was fun. When making song covers for the Hasbin characters, do you have to change a lot of the lyrics in the original songs? Most of the time I don't. For some things, just because it'll sound a bit better, I do. There'll be some slight alterations. For the Do What You Want dub, there was at least 2 lines that I changed, just so that it would flow better between Valentino and Angel, but apart from that, I don't mess with them. What is your opinion on Addict? It's very good for what it is. My only issue with it is that it makes me wonder when we would learn the information shown in the video if that song hadn't been made. That's the only thing. But apart from that, it's great. It's great. Notice me, DJ. I have noticed you. What character would you like to get a more extended and serious story in the future? Husk needs more development. We need to know a lot more about him, because he has nothing. Same with Nifty. I also would really like to learn more, actually, about Vaggie, because she has a definite connection to the Angels from her general look. Unless that's just supposed to be a red herring. Doing the Addict reprise with Caesar Machine was fun, because I wasn't expecting them to ask me to do it, but that was nice. Who do you vibe with more, Octavia, Luna, or Millie? I think I vibe with Moxie, just being completely bewildered at the people around me more than anything else. How late will you be up? Well, it's about 20 past 11 now, and I still need to do all the behind-the-scenes things, but I'm a night owl, I can stay up. So don't worry about that. Favorite song? In general, that is a very difficult question to answer. A lot of the music I listen to doesn't really have vocals or anything, it's mostly instrumental. And I have favourite songs from favourite artists, so I can't really say one in general. Please don't commit war crimes, it's not worth it. Opinions on the V-Squad trio, likes and dislikes. Valentino is a fantastic character because he's just nasty. It's so refreshing just to have a villain who doesn't have like a tragic or non side to him. No, he's just a wanker because he is, and that's all he needs. Vox and Velvet, I mean, Vox has the potential to be pretty good considering he's under Valentino's boot, but Velvet, we don't know anything about her, so I can't say anything about her. Cutest thing you've ever seen? When my leopard gecko stares at me looking for food. That's the cutest thing in the world. How'd you come up with the name Paranoid DJ? I took the word paranoid and spelled it that way because I ripped it off from Paranoia from DDR. Because I was a very unimaginative teenager when I came up with the name. Will you ever do a full cover of Addict? Maybe, but it wouldn't sound like the original Addict. I'd want to make it sound completely different if I was going to do that. Like a ambient piano ballad or something. Just keeping an eye on time here. It's amazing how quickly you can lose track of time when you're just doing something that keeps you busy. How long have you had your cute little gecko? She is going to be 4 in March. I got her on my birthday that year ago, so I make the claim she shares a birthday with me. But I've had her about 4 years now. And she's still very small and nice. What would your reaction be if Valentino tried to get redeemed? Do you think he deserves it? I would immediately assume he was trying to con someone. I don't think he's a character that ever wants to be or tries to be. Anything like that. Yes, Tamira, if they ever did auditions, I'd give it a go. But I doubt I'd get anything or that they'll ever hold open auditions again. When's your birthday? It's in March. March 16th, specifically. Which VA was harder to do? Vox from a sound production standpoint, Valentino from a tone standpoint. Well, thank you, Natasha. I don't think my normal voice is anything special, but, you know. Obviously, people don't agree with that, so... Yeah, March is obviously the best birthday month, everyone. Oh, man. Just clearing my throat a little bit. This is the longest I've talked in a very long time, so you're all keeping me busy. Thanks for that. Besides having a gecko, you're more of a dog or a cat person. Probably dog, more than cat, if I had one. But above all else, reptiles are better to me. I'm glad I've reached the level of, you sound nice enough to serve something to. You're a customer. Nice. Which one do you consider more powerful? In terms of reputation, Alistair, but in terms of actual power, considering that Vox is supposed to own everything electronic, probably him. And yes, I'm glad that you don't mind listening to me ramble about random things that you shove in my face. Honestly, it's just a bit flattering. Oh, Carlos, thank you for joining us. It's nice of you, nice of someone of such huge, or someone who deserves way more renown than I do, honestly, for being here. Thank you. What do you think about Baxter's character? I don't know anything about Baxter. I know what he looks like. I know nothing else about him. Like Christmas or Halloween? Christmas is the better month. Although it has been soured a little bit because of the thing I mentioned earlier that happened in the beginning of 2020. But as a holiday, Christmas is better for me, personally. If Bean wasn't a gecko, which reptile would you like her to be? I don't know. Bean is perfect as she is. If she was any kind of gecko, but she's just nice right now. Although, having like a really big monitor lizard would be pretty nice. Because they just seem like they lounge on you for heat, and that's quite nice. Thank you very much, Weeby. Honestly, I can't imagine what they'd think of me if they just see that most of the time I just scream into a microphone. But, you know, I do what I must. Would you do ASMR? Probably not. I don't get the fascination with ASMR personally, but maybe that's just me. Do you think Alistair will become a main villain? No. I don't think that he's supposed to set up to be the main villain. He's outright stated what his intentions are. He's only there just to see people mess up. I don't really think it would make sense for him to have a hidden agenda when, you know, he has a reputation of being nasty, but then from what he does in his comic, he's just going about his day, doing what he does. I don't think he's the sort of person who would have plans as such. What's my age? I'm 27. Oh, people want to be my friend. Oh. It's lovely. If any one of you need to go or anything, please do not let me keep you. All I'm doing is babbling and kind of honestly just wasting time until I'm probably getting to the real meat of why a lot of you are here to actually see how I make these things. A legend, thank you. How long have I known about it? I didn't discover Has-Been Hotel until about a month after the pilot aired, when Dragonscale shoved the link to the pilot in my face and said, "You need to watch this!" And I did, and the rest is history. Am I altering my voice in any way right now? Nope, this is how I normally sound. Will you ever do a cover of You Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile? I mean, yeah. That would... The thing is that I'd have to match Gabriel, then his version of it, which is not an easy thing to do. So... yes, also, I will have this live stream available for rewatching. I've never done this before, so I'll need to check to make sure that it will do that. Yes, I will make sure it is saved. Man, Silent Hill music is just like such a vibe to listen to, isn't it? You ever start to choke? Well, no. You don't put your thumb directly on the throat when I do it. I have my finger on one side of where my throat is on my neck and the thumb on the other, and it's a very, very, very gentle pressing. It's not super, like, massive. It's just enough to alter the format of your voice. So this is how I sound when I'm not doing it, and this is how I sound when I do it. So you can immediately see there's a difference depending on when you do it or not. It doesn't need to be, like, super pressed in or not, because that is stupid. Don't do that. Did you play VR chat? I do not own anything related to VR at all. Favorite thing about Bean? Probably whenever she looks at me and her eyes are very wide, because that's just her normal expression. Her mouth is shaped so it looks as though she's always smiling. So it's too endearing. If I could find a way to quickly put a picture on screen of her, I would, but I don't want to risk messing anything up on a first live stream. Favorite food, Sketchy Garden, is anything that has sugar in it. I am a huge sweet tooth, although I've been doing very well and not actually had anything super sugary for a very long time. Would you be interested in being the singing voice for Angel Dust? It'd be nice, but Angel already has a singing voice and he does it amazingly. So... Alright, thank you for showing up, Weeby, and again, thank you for your consistent fan art of the little droid lad. It's very appreciated. Thank you. If Mark Hamill had voiced Alistair, that would be interesting. I imagine very heavily Joker vibes. Favorite ice cream flavor? Mint choc chip. It is the superior flavor and any other choice is invalid. I'm sorry to break this to you, but... Also, yeah, if anyone wants to bake me a cake, I'm totally down for that. Galaxy or Cadbury? Well, Cadbury make Galaxy, don't they? So... Also, if anyone ever says the words Daddy DJ, all I can think of is that really old dance song that actually is called Daddy DJ, so I can't take it seriously. Oh, Long Gone Gulch, weirdo. Yes, I have seen it. Very fun. It's a nice concept, although I think it's a bit sluggish in places. But it's fun. I like it. How do I change my voice in voice acting, like pitch and stuff? It is just a matter of practice. You need to reference back to your source material all the time. Watch how they say certain words. Listen to how their voice is emphasized on certain ways, depending on what emotion they're feeling, and just imitate that. Practice what they say originally in source material first. So, like, when I was trying to figure out how to do Angel's voice, I basically spent a lot of time practicing the lines he said in the pilot. And then from there onwards, that's how I then moved on to the comics. What female voice do you think you can do the best? Well, the one I apparently did and no one noticed was the sheep girl. So I guess I'll say that one. Oh, God. I was actually really glad that no one realised it was me. And it's funny, I'm pretty sure in the credits of the Alistair dub, I actually label it as I'm the sheep customer, and no one said anything about it, so... Yes, thank you, Weeby, for being here. Have a nice evening yourself. I know it's late for where you're sitting, too. Do your best female voice impression right now. I don't know. I thought I did a decent Yzma earlier. Then again, like, she's kind of got, like, a low, raspy voice anyway, but... It's called a cruel irony, like my dependence on you. Do you like Thin Mint cookies? I don't think Thin Mint cookies are a thing over here. I'm pretty sure I've had them before when I visited the States, though. What's my favourite song? Depends on the artist. I have individual artists who I think have the best songs, but I can't choose a favourite of all time. I own too much music, being an audio person. Most of my 2 terabyte external hard drive is nothing but music, so... Do you think Velvet would have a Harley Quinn or Spinel voice? Is that how you say her name? I don't watch Steven Universe. Probably Harley Quinn, just because I know that one better. Is there any voice that gets tiring after a while? To do with long stretches, Husk. Because, again, I can't do his growl naturally. I have to only do it at certain times of the day, and if I do it too much, then that gets worn out quickly. Favorite of Ariana Grande? Probably Rain on Me, because it's the only one I know. I don't listen to her. Right, well, we're about an hour and 40 minutes in, so... I think it might be time for me to go to the actual behind-the-scenes aspect of things now. We might go back to Q&A a bit at the end afterwards, but if I keep delaying it by answering all these questions, we're never going to get to it. I'm going to be here until 4 in the morning, which is not ideal. So, we'll get rid of our music, and we'll then be going to the... First, I'm going to show the RoboFizz voices, and we'll come back to questions later. Don't worry, we'll do some more before this is over. First, I'm going to show you how I did the RoboFizz voice, and the process of doing that, and then I'm going to show you the overall look for a project dub. So if I switch over screens here to this is my workstation. Now, keep in mind that while I actually have this window open, I'm not going to be able to see the chat unless I tab out, so if you're going to ask me or say anything, I might be a bit slow to respond in that aspect, but this is essentially the project I have for doing RoboFizz's voice. Now, RoboFizz was interesting because I felt it would be better to do something that was pre-done in terms of the effects work before I inserted it into the rest of the project. So this is the finalized audio clip that has his effects added onto it, but without any sense of space, like the reverb of the room he's in or anything else like that. So the first thing that I do whenever I do a recording is that I set up a recording channel here. This is essentially, if I turn this on, you can see it's reacting to my voice. This is essentially where I make the recording, and it will, when I start recording, it'll dump it into this line here where all the audio stuff is. While I'm doing the recording, I add on something that is called a limiter. And as you can tell from this line here, all that means is that essentially if I get too loud, this will stop it from distorting. So if I louden my voice, you can see how it's getting clipped around this area. So it's not distorting, it's actually keeping fairly in line with everything. That's a very basic thing for that. After I've done the recording, I then import it into the channel here, where I'm actually going to do, let me just turn that off, all of RoboFizz's effects work. So first we have it imported into here, into a program that's in FL Studio called Edison. It's essentially an audio clip editor. I can select certain parts, I can cut it up, I can do all sorts of things from it there. This is the full recording session that I did with all of the bad takes taken out. And then we just turn off the effects here so you can hear it as it sounds normally. So when I was actually voicing Fizz, without any of the effects, he sounds like this.
Did you seriously think you'd be seen as anything more than a worthless, filthy, bottom-feeding imp?
So, you know, quite quiet, as you might be able to tell, which is not ideal for the purposes. He's a lot louder in the finalized version, but that's what all the effects work for anyway. So what I then did afterwards was that I exported all of this into here, and any dead space in between the words that he said, I just cut out. General rule of audio, when I'm working with it, is that if there's any chance for background noise to show up, you want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So any gaps where there is no noise, there's potential where you can pick up me moving or anything, that just gets removed completely. Once that is in place... Oh, too many buttons in this program. Once that is in place, we then start adding some effects work. So first thing we want to do, because as you could tell from that clip, it's quite quiet. So what we want to do next, if I just isolate his voice, is turn on a compressor. Now, a compressor is a tool that basically limits how loud a sound can be and how quiet a sound can be. So if we go back to the original recording, you can see there's a lot of moments where there's a lot of variation in how loud it gets and how quiet it gets. We want that sound to be more uniform, so we don't want there to be as much variation. The compressor is what essentially will do that for us. So if we turn the compressor on and then play the sound...
Well, if it isn't the incredible Blitzo.
You can kind of...
My, I see the kiddies are still tired of that dried-out root.
You can see there's a slight difference in it, but it's not immediately noticeable at the moment. That's what some later effects will be for. But that just basically means that the audio is much more audible. Let me turn this up a bit, actually. I don't know how quiet this is.
My, I see the kiddies are still tired of that dried-out routine you call entertainment.
So you can hear there's a difference between how it sounds in on and offwards for that aspect. Next thing that I add to is EQ, equalization. This is the general way that a sound sounds, for lack of a better way to explain it. So, for an intimidating character like RoboFizz, he has some quite low end to his voice. There's a little bit of a bass. He hasn't got so much of... most vocal frequencies are in the middle ranges here, and he doesn't have as much of that. compared to other characters because he has other effects in his voice doing that for him. So if we turn the EQ on and then play it again...
My, I see the kiddies are still tired of that dried-out routine you call entertainment.
It just makes it sound a little bit cleaner, to me. It's something that I do a little bit on all the voices I do, and that depends on the different character in terms of the specifics of how I EQ a sound or anything else like that. The next thing that RoboFizz has to him is that his voice coming through a speaker, just like Alistair, he has some distortion applied to his voice. Distortion is something in sound that you don't usually want in a lot of aspects because it sounds awful, it sounds crackly, it's something that you want to try and avoid at all costs. However, when it comes to characters like Alistair or Vox in the way that I do him or in RoboFizz, distortion is a good tool that you can use to make a voice sound like it's coming through a speaker or that it's broken without it sounding too bad. So then if we add the distortion...
My, I see the kiddies are still tired of that dried-out routine you call entertainment.
Can you hear that sort of fuzziness in his voice? That's what the distortion is doing. It gives it a slight little bit of a speaker vibe to it like that. Then, just to be certain, we also have another limiter in place just to ensure that the distortion isn't being too overdone. Because distortion being as powerful as it is, it can easily make a sound go into the reds, which is not what you want. That's something, again, you want to avoid at all costs. So the limiter is just...
I see the kiddies are still...
just insurance. Now, you might think, oh, that sounds well and good, but there are some other effects at play with RoboFizz's voice. And the first one is what we have here. This is known as a grain effect or a bit crusher. This essentially changes the sound to make it appear as though it's lower quality. So if I play it again with the bit crusher turned on...
My, I see the kiddies are still tired of that dried-out routine you call entertainment.
It's just a little bit more of the fuzz to add on top of the distortion. Makes it a bit easier to get that sort of robotic effect with. And then the last two effects I have on him are the two different ones that cause him to do the vocal stuttering, as though like he's malfunctioning. I have two different settings here. One for when I want the voice to be repeated very quickly, and one for when I want the voice to be repeated like every so often. That's what these bottom two lines here are for. These are called automation clips. They essentially allow you to change something about an effect or a plugin or a volume or anything like that and have it change automatically as the track plays. So if I add those back in, and you'll hear whenever this dips down below, like down like this means that that effect has been activated. So you can hear it when I do this bit here.
I'm tired of that dried-out routine you call...
Oh, actually helps if I turn the effects on for starters and then do it again.
I'm tired of that dried-out routine you call entertainment.
And that's pretty much the basics behind his voice, for general speaking. But we also know from the pilot episode that RoboFizz also has moments where his voice dips down very severely in pitch, or it sounds almost demonic. That's what these two secondary bits are for. Now, when I imported these individual voice clips, you'll notice how they are all separate things that I can choose from on the left here. That's because on each individual voice clip that I wanted there to be some sort of demonic effect, I changed the pitch of it. So a classic example that we'll have here is when he says the word forgotten.
Forgotten.
The normal voice clip is just
Forgotten.
which is very low already, and the second one is
Forgotten.
is still pitched down, but it's not as much. And then when you play those together,
Forgotten.
it gets that effect. And that's the same throughout the rest of the voice clips as well.
Ever love you.
These are all just parts of the same voice clips that have been pitched down to play in conjunction with the original recording, so it gives you that sort of demonic edge. And obviously the culmination of that is the laughter, which is... And yeah, that's pretty much RoboFizz's voice. There isn't much to it. I think a lot of the strength in that comes down from the way that you voice him. Like, if you don't nail the way he talks things, like, you can do all these tricks and it won't work. But add all this stuff together and I think it comes up with something pretty special. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I haven't added any reverb or anything else to this clip to make it sound as though it's in a space. So if I just briefly switch and then load up the full Temptation dub, I can show you how all of these things are set out. This might take a minute or so because the project is quite large. But yes, that's RoboFizz's voice, for a starter. For a character like that, there's obviously a lot more work that goes into it. You need to choose the right times when you want his voice to repeat, when you want it to distort, all those sorts of things. For other characters like Angel, you don't need it. For Husk, you don't need it. Valentino, you need it a little bit, but not so much. And it goes on and on like that. So yeah. I know that was basically me rambling for probably a good 10 minutes about audio design, but there's no easy way to explain half the work that goes into these things, if I'm being honest. The effect that creates the stuttering Fizz's voice, you can do it multiple ways, Ninja. You can either do it through that effects unit that I've just used now, which automatically does the stuttering depending on the speed that you want it to happen, or you can manually cut the audio up and repeat it yourself. But that takes longer and it's usually not as easily controllable, I should say. You're going to have to bear with me. Loading this Temptation dub might take a while, just because there's a lot more into it than just doing one voice there. Do I recommend FL Studio then for beginners? FL Studio is probably the easiest one to get to terms with. It's a good program for when you want to do music. For when you want to do what I do with it, it takes a bit more practice to learn the ins and outs of all the intricacies. It's a program that's commonly referred to in audio as a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, and most of them work in the same way. So really it's a matter of preference. You can use Logic, Cubase, I think Reason has a sequencer in it now. There's a couple of ways you can do it. Unfortunately, they do cost a lot of money, yes. I think for this version of FL Studio, it was a couple of £100 for me. Can you do that laugh right now? God, I mean, I kind of want to try, but again, I'm running my voice ragged a little bit here. But again, the RoboFizz laugh was one of the things that you do last when you're doing his voice. Don't do that first. Is there a background noise cut in the stream audio? Yes, I've set it up so that if there is any noise on my voice, it gets cut out so you don't hear it. My computer can be quite loud, unfortunately, because it's having to process a lot of audio. But right, I think we're done loading. So if we go back into FL Studio, this is the Temptation dub. You might be wondering, there's like a million different things here. A lot to explain, but this is essentially the entire project from beginning to end in the Temptation dub. So, you know, bask in all the number of colours that are involved in a dub like this first. Thank you for being here, Ashella. I'm trying to keep in mind what chat is while I'm explaining all this. In terms of upcoming projects, I'll mention that a little bit more as we wind up in a little bit after I've shown how this works. But yes, Temptation dub. So it might look very intimidating in terms of what everything does, and you'd be right in a lot of aspects, but it's actually not as complicated as it seems, at least not to me, because I've done it enough times for it to work. So the first thing that you want to do when you're making a dub project similar to how I've done it is you want to record all of your voices first. When I do these all these dubs, I record each character in turn depending on what I want to do. So I have a separate channel for Blitz, I have one for Stolas, and I have one for RoboFizz, because they're the only 3 characters that talk. So I will record all of Blitz's lines first, and then I will do all of Stolas' lines, and then I will do all of RoboFizz's lines. Now, as I've mentioned beforehand, you never get it on a first take. I do at least 3 versions of a single line, and then choose the best one out of all of that, and then stitch it together. So I did all of that for all of Blitz's lines, all of that for Stolas', and then all of that for RoboFizz. RoboFizz is I basically imported the finalized sound clip that I did in the previous project, because it would be easier to do it that way rather than have the program struggling to work it for and apply all those effects in conjunction with everything else. So I have dedicated channels for, I think all of this is Stolas' dialogue that I've slipped in and out. Blitz's I've lost track of. It's somewhere in... Yeah, sorry. Blitz is the very top row, so these are all of Blitz's lines. And the green bits here, these are all RoboFizz. Once you have all your voices recorded in, you then need to start adjusting them so that they flow like a normal conversation. So, you know, I have all of Blitz's introduction line in terms of how you would say the jokes, and then... these 2 bits here, this top line, this green one, this is the back and forth between Blitz and RoboFizz when he's talking. It's a matter of timing about what works, what sounds natural. There's no real easy way to do it. Because I'm doing it to a comic, I don't need to be as strict with the timing. I can just make it sound in whatever way I want. And that would be applied the same for all of the Stolas lines as well. The back and forth, like if Blitz needs to say a line that interrupts Stolas and so on and so forth, you need to do all that first. And that's before you do any of the vocal effects at all. After I've done that, what I tend to then search for afterwards is a soundtrack. Because music, I think, is a thing that is severely underrated in terms of how a thing is presented. So... in the circus sections, I chose the Carnival music, this one here, as the sort of backing evil circus tent music. And then I also had like the secondary version for when RoboFizz is talking, because it just felt like it fit that the character more. And I do that for the entirety of every single piece of music in the dub. So this is where you have the horror elements. I have a heartbeat coming in from the little Undertale snippet. And then at the very end, if I just open this up, I have the other piece of music, which is the Nia piano track that plays in the background when they're having their bit at the end. Then, after you've established music and again put it on its own separate tracks to work with... Sorry, there's a lot of buttons here. Then I go on to choosing ambience. And now these would be things like things that make the room sound like it's a certain size. It would be how the characters move around it, you know. Does there need to be a low rumble of an apartment? Does there need to be a cityscape sound? Does there need to be wind? Anything like that. And those are just chosen from my sound libraries and applied appropriately. So here I have... just normal nighttime city ambience. I then have other effects for like demonic vocals, like that you then layer on top of that to create a certain mood. You have a cold wind sound effect, which again, when you insert all of those, I really should just expand all of these onwards. You then get a sense of, you know, whether there's wind outside, whether there's anything like that. As you can see here, I have the wind being faded in with the demonic sounds here. Etc, etc. Sometimes you can use other sounds that you wouldn't think would match a certain locale. So, for example, the background ambience of the circus tent is actually a low rumbling noise that you would find on, as the title says, a set of spaceship quarters. And because of that, it creates that sort of low rumbling ominousness to it all, I should say. See if you can hear that on its own. It's just a low rumble, and it's good for what it is. Then after the ambience is done, that's when we start getting into the nitty-gritty of movement sound effects. Now, these include everything to do with moving of clothes, footsteps, handprints, gestures, anything like that. You'll notice how I have a lot of things for the movement of clothes, such as when there's a fast action. Mostly because it's a still image, you have to add all those sounds in so that the viewer can have a sense of movement. So I have ruffling of clothes, then I have an impact sound for when Blitz falls down, and that carries on for the entirety of the project. I separate these out on a per character basis, so if I have to have one character move, I have a certain channel set up for just their footsteps, and I have one for set up just for Stolas' footsteps, and so on and so forth. And then once those are done, because like I see, I have some barefoot sounds here just for when Blitz is walking across the floor. And again, you space those out depending on how you want him to be walking quickly, slowly, whatever. Then after that, you then add in any extra sound effects, such as, as someone brightly mentioned, there was some effects of robots borrowed from the AR FNAF game, which were very useful, or anything to do with magical sounds when Stolas takes off into the air, for when there's beating of wings, anything else like that. And then once all that is in place, it's then just a matter of having to balance everything in terms of certain sounds being too loud, certain sounds being too soft, where the space for the reverb is correct, anything like that. And eventually you end up getting the end product, like...
I'm not sure of what you dreamt, but just...
Whoops, actually that should be muted, that's the second version of it.
I'm not sure of what you dreamt, but just know that I'm only a phone call away from whenever you wake.
So it ends up blending together when you have all of these things combined. I'm skipping over a lot of the specifics in terms of hearing individual elements because I don't want to spoil too much, and also because I've rambled on about this for as long as I can without being too mind-blowy in terms of the technicalities of audio processing. But general workflow, voice your characters first, then do your ambient noises so you have a idea of what the space will be. So I've got ones for Circus, Stolas' room, and the city. Then you do your... No, sorry, I missed a step. I'm getting confused being all babbly. First you do your voices, then you do your music, which I find helps sets the tone and flow of the atmosphere you're trying to convey. Then you do your ambience, then you do all of your movement sounds, and then finally any extra effects like magic or demonic sounds or anything else like that. And then you end up with a project that basically just looks like a ton of coloured bars that to anyone seems incomprehensible, but is really just a building block. As long as you follow steps like that, it's actually pretty simple in terms of how these are all put together. Now, I've done more complex projects like this. You do not want to see the mess that the Alistair one is. The Alistair one is insane in terms of the sheer amount of stuff I had to do for that one. I had overlapping voices from Dragon Scale for the Demon Ladies. I had... Alistair's radio effects that I had to time perfectly for when he said certain words. I had his radio filters slipping in and out of stuff. I had advertisements on the televisions. I had Vox's glitch effects. I had a lot to handle with that project. But, see, I would show the Alistair one, but it is literally 5 different projects worth of information. Every single major scene in that comic is a different project on its own. And then... you would mash it all together and then a separate project afterwards to make it the final version of the video with extra music and stuff. But that is essentially the general workflow that I have for these things. I just thought it'd be nice to show you a little bit of idea. Whenever I do a comic dub, this is what I see most of the time I'm making one. And depending on the length of the comic, I mean, what's this one? About 4 minutes. Depending on how long the comic is, this can be way more complex than it has to be. There can be way more channels of audio to deal with than this, all sorts of things. But yeah, that's pretty much the workflow. So there's your little behind the scenes look at everything that's going on. I hope that was at least somewhat informative and not too much, because there's a lot that goes into these projects that a lot of people probably don't realize, I think. So yeah. The main resource for background noise, like the clothes and the sound of him falling backward. A lot of the sounds I have, as mentioned earlier, some of them come from sound libraries, as in they are sound effect packs that other actual Foley artists have recorded and have put up to purchase. Some of them I record myself, and it depends on the certain effects for that. Like, some of the clothes moving sounds, some of them are my clothes, and then some of them are from a sound pack. But it depends on what I need them for. Yes, lots of talking. Yeah, I was really trying not to go too sort of overboard with the explanations of everything, because a lot of the stuff that I do for these things can be extremely technical. So I'm trying some up. I mean, these are only some basic effects. Like, for Alistair's voice, there's a lot of extra distortion things and EQ in there. For Vox's voice, there's a mixture of glitching in the background, similar to RoboFizz, but not all the way. All sorts of stuff. So yeah. Yeah, when this stream's like actually finished processing and everything, I'll add timestamps so people can actually see if they want to rewatch it for any reason. Unfortunately, I've never played Roblox Heavenly at all. And yes, D6 entry, the Alistair one is very close to 1 million, which again is something that I was not expecting when I uploaded it. So thank you all for your support of continuing to show that monstrosity of an effort that took, because that was way more work than I realized at first. You know, when you first read the comic, it's like, oh, it's just showing establishing shots, and then it was nothing but establishing shots, and it wasn't until the very end there was dialogue, and, you know, there was a lot that went into that one. Thanks for being here, video. It's always nice to see you. As FL Studio is quite pricey, is there any apps or programs you recommend as a stepping stone? There's the problem with sound, is that if you want to do it, you have to invest. I'm pretty sure someone like Carlos and any other voice actor who does this sort of thing can attest to, if you want to do it seriously, you need to invest in the equipment, and unfortunately it's quite expensive. The price is usually worth it for me, because I bought FL Studio, like a version of, I think I was on FL Studio 9 when I first got it, and we're now at version 20. So I've stuck with it for then, and after I made that initial purchase. So if you use it for that long, it's well worth the price. But unfortunately, if you're going to be serious about it, you need to invest. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Bree. I think that's how you say your name. Thank you. Where do you get all the sound effects you do not make yourself? As I said, they're sound libraries. There are companies and actual other sound designers out there who make sample packs of these things and sell them. They cost a lot of money, but sometimes some of them put them out for free. just a matter of looking around. Applying to do YouTube as a full-time job or a hobby. Well, I can't really make YouTube a job. I don't earn any money from doing this, and I would feel bad if I did, because all I'm doing is adding on top of work that someone else has done, and I don't want to take away the attention from what they do. But I want to keep doing it as much as possible, just because you've all been so very supportive of making it. It just encourages me to keep doing it, so... Can I do a singing collab with Angel and Alistair? Never say never. I'm always looking out for songs that would probably work with these characters, but it's a matter of what the song is and what to do about it. Have I ever thought of doing sound design tutorials for specific parts? I mean, it's possible. I mean, I've technically just done one now. The problem is that I don't want to reveal too much about how I do these things. Because one thing that I have noticed a lot, especially on YouTube, and I did mention this in a community post maybe a few months ago, is that YouTube is a platform where people like to take what you do and put it up themselves. I've seen so many reposts of things I've done on other people's channels, or they've taken my work and altered it without crediting me properly. There was one where someone took the entire Alistair comic dubbed over it in Spanish voices over top of my sound design, then cut the credits out so you couldn't tell it was me. So I'm hesitant to do tutorials for that reason, because then people would just take that and then, you know, run with that as you will. It's the main reason why I had a massive hiatus from YouTube last time and the time before that, because people just started taking stuff. Is there any way we can support you still? Well, still watching and commenting is still support to me. If there is a way, because people have been asking me about, like, I remember there was one person who asked a question about, will I ever have a Patreon or anything? And again, it's not something I ever thought about, because I don't like the idea of taking money for basically taking someone else's work, and doing stuff to it. But if anything like that comes up, I'll announce it, and you'll all see it, so... How much do you change your voice? Like, do you mainly use effects to change your voice, or do you actually change it? Depends on the character. Angel, I can just change on a whim. Alistair, I can change on a whim, and it's enhanced by effects. Valentino, I can voice, but he needs the effects to make him sound intimidating. It depends on the character. How do you figure out what kind of effects to use for what characters? It's trial and error, and also based on what I know certain effects will do to a sound, and what I think sounds cool. It's basically just experimenting until I think, that sounds right. Do I like anime? I'm very selective about anime. I don't watch a lot of it. There's only like been a handful of series I've actually liked seeing. A lot of the rest of it is just not to my taste. Yeah, I've heard of coffee before. I've no idea how it works, but that could be something to look into. Yeah, the thing is that people like to try and gain the attention that something else has done. I see the appeal, that they see something big and they think, well, if I put it on mine, then people pay attention to that. They shouldn't do it, but, you know, they still do. I used to put very heavy watermarks on some of my very earlier musical work to try and stop them stealing it. But then it just led to people complaining, saying, why have you put this big robotic voice saying Paranoid DJ over the top of it? Because they don't understand why. Do I like Danganronpa? I've never seen anything to do with it, so I can't tell you. Favorite music genres? Most of my taste tends to be stuff that's electronic. I like a lot of the hard dance subgenres, like really tough sounding music, because it's perfect for when you're in a bad mood. But then also some like the, you know, trance music, house music, things like that. Or ambient electronic, like what you're hearing in the background now. This is from Silent Hill 4. What anime do I like? Well, as Bree said, I do like My Hero. I've enjoyed what I've seen of that. I like JoJo, which I think at this point is just like a meme in and of itself. But you know, it's JoJo. Come on. Elfen Lied is another one I really liked. I liked Black Lagoon, Evangelion. You know, those are the ones that really come to mind immediately that I'm just like, I'm a big fan of. A lot of the other stuff's just kind of interchangeable to me. Have you ever heard of Full Metal Alchemist? I liked Full Metal, but I wouldn't say I was the biggest fan of it. It was okay. Maybe saying you're doing a Spider-Man comic dub. It's... The section I want to do is from the crossover with the Deadpool series. There's just like a really fun conversational bit where they're speaking in Deadpool's apartment that I think would be fun to try. You heard of banana fish? Nope. No idea what that is. Actually, no, this is one of the only songs in Silent Hill 4 that I actually don't like. I'm changing that. Let's go to something else. What animes have you watched that you didn't like? There's a lot where... I actually honestly can't remember the names of half of them. There's a lot of, where they just say, oh, you need to watch this one, and I've watched it, I'm just like, nah, it's boring. Or it's just been like, what is this? Do I like spicy food? Within reason, I like spice for flavor, not for pure heat. You're welcome, Charlie. Don't burn the hotel down or anything. Or let anyone burn it down, I should say. Do you plan or consider doing a cover of the Vox and Val version of Addict? I've not heard a Vox and Val version of Addict, so probably not. You can also tell I'm starting to get a little bit less manic and energy now because it's now just gone 20 past midnight where I'm sitting. But we'll keep going for a bit longer. If I were in MHA, what would my quirk be? I'd want Bird Boy's power. I'd like to have an evil shadow that would just be an annoyance at night time. What video games give you nostalgia? Nostalgia would be, as the music supplies, any of the original 4 Silent Hill games. The original Ratchet and Clanks, Jak and Daxter's, those are for nostalgia purposes, I think. Who's your least favourite Has-Been Hotel character? I don't really have like a least favourite, I just have ones that I think need a lot more to them before I can even call them characters, to be honest. Like, I think Husk and Nifty are in drastic need of some solid confirmed background information, because half the stuff we know about them is based off years-old streams that's all been retconned later anyway. Any thoughts on Shadow of the Colossus? I know of it. I'm pretty sure I saw a friend play it, the original version of it, many years ago, but I've not played it myself. Will I do a face reveal in the future? Far off in the future, I'll say. Maybe. Do you have any other favourite video game soundtracks besides Silent Hill? Either of the Nier games. I'm convinced that Nier Automata and Nier Replicant are masterpieces. Please play them, please enjoy their lovely music. Both Bayonetta games, because Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2 are my favourite games of all time. Completely of all time. Hollow Knight has a fantastic soundtrack. Mirror's Edge, the original, not the new one, has a fantastic soundtrack. Alice Madness Returns has a fantastic soundtrack. The original Assassin's Creeds with Jesper Kyd as the composer have good soundtracks too. A lot of more modern game soundtracks haven't really approached me as well. I also like some of the Final Fantasy ones and the Kingdom Hearts soundtracks too. Could you please say my name in Al's voice? And I'm gonna have to drink so much water after I'm done. This is literally the longest I've talked in a very long time. Oh, Christiana. Do you think you'll make live streams a regular thing? I wouldn't say regular, mainly just because I wouldn't really know what to do for most of them. I mean, this is kind of a special occasion because, you know, 40k subs, Q&A, all that stuff. But I wouldn't really know what to do for any of the live streams, if I'm being honest. But maybe. I mean, this one's been far more of a success than I ever expected it would be, so, you know. What are your projects in your life? Music, more dubs, something like maths, what do you like more? I really like doing music. That's probably my original and biggest passion. Dubbing is a close second, because obviously of the success it's brought me, so I really like that. Can I get you to say Flutter in just your own voice? Hello, Flutter. Yeah, I do enjoy this aspect of hanging out and stuff. I don't think it's ever going to get to the point where I won't be able to keep up because it gets too popular. I don't think what I make has enough of a broad appeal for that, but, you know. You want me to say Brennan Cooper in my normal voice? Okay, well, there you go. What do I play on in terms of game console or anything? I mostly play on PC. I have a PS4 and a Switch, but they haven't seen much use for a while. Do you like Ratchet and Clank or Jack and Daxter? Ratchet and Clank, those were the ones I played first, and I think the future series kind of sold me on that more. Jack's still great though.
Howdy, Game Bear.
What's the one thing you liked about the Addict music video the most? Honestly, it was the flash frames of realizing that not everything was good with Angel. Because that was a good sign to me that, they're taking this seriously. I'm fine with that. TV show recommendations? Haunting of Hill House. CSI. And the original 5 series of the relaunched Doctor Who. X-Files is a good one too, yes. Fernando, if you have something you want to recommend me to dub, then please say it. I'll check it out. I can't guarantee I'll do it because it depends on what it is, but... The inevitable question, who is your favourite Doctor? You know it's going to be Tennant, don't you? Because that's everyone's answer. I do... Although having said that, I think Peter Capaldi is actually my second favourite. Because although the scripts he were given to work with were terrible, but he had some fantastic standout moments just because Capaldi's such a good actor. It's a shame what's happened to Doctor Who. I really have not enjoyed what they've done with the series lately. I have heard of Good Omens. I don't know really much else about it, to be honest. Apart from the name. How much longer will I be streaming for? Probably not that much longer, honestly. I mean, it's approaching half midnight here, and I could keep answering questions for a very long time, but I can't keep this up forever because it's very late. But, you know, not maybe a bit longer. Do you like Spyro or Crash? Spyro is a good dragon. He deserves a lot more than he has done for a while. Oh, trust me, I'll be drinking a lot of it. Don't worry about that. We'll keep going for a couple more minutes, just if there's any last few questions that people want to ask. Yeah, this is when the music in Silent Hill starts getting a bit scary. How is life going for you? All things considered, it's been going okay. I said the beginning of 2020, for reasons unrelated to said global bastard, were not very fun to deal with, but, you know, it's been over a year since, so we've survived somehow. Do you like sharks? Sharks are nice. Alistair's Fear. Do you have any idea who that's by? So I can have a look at it that way. Which Hasbro Helva character do you relate to the most? I think Angel would be the one I relate to most, not for the obvious reasons of him being a massive whore, but but more so the reasons that behind the scenes he wants to prove that he's worth something to someone. That's been something that I think is very relatable to a lot of people. Would you get another job when the pandemic is over, and what kind? as long as it wasn't customer service, I'd be fine. I refuse to deal with the general public again after my previous 2 jobs. Weeby, you might have missed a lot of audio tech explanation, because there was a lot of that, but it'll be in the video when it's finished. How do you pick just the right song out of everything you have on your hard drive? I have soundtracks from a lot of movies and games and films and stuff, and I've listened to them enough that I can make connections in my head about what would work in a lot of situations. So, like, for a lot of the horror aspects I have, you'll notice that I've used a lot of music from the American version of The Grudge, because I know all those tracks and when they peak and everything like that. So I know, oh, that'll be good for this bit, or that'll be good for when this happens, sort of thing. Have I watched any of the Honeycast? I have. It's a chaotic mess, just as it should be, and it's fun. Yeah, customer service is... I think if more people were forced to work in customer service, they'd be more nice to people at shops. It made me become a person where it's like, right, I never want to be this person to like a shop worker ever again. Ever. It made me become a person where it's like, right, I never want to be this person to like a shop. Did you get singing lessons, or are you self-taught? I have never had official lessons for singing. I used to learn the cornet, which is like a small version of a trumpet. I got to grade 5 stand on that. I self-taught myself piano, and as for singing, it's just been a matter of, because I'm musically inclined to do music, picking up a tune and humming it then just evolved, I suppose. Can Angel flirt with someone? I imagine Angel can flirt with whoever he wants. Yeah, a lot of the stuff I've done, with the exception of what I learned on my degree, has just been stuff I've worked on over years. In terms of self-teaching about, you know, music and whatnot. Alright, I'll check that out, see what I can find. I should point out I'm not extremely proficient at piano. I can just play enough to be good backing for something. Would you do a video with you playing piano? That'd be very difficult to work out, and I have no idea what I'd play. But... favorite character in Undertale? From Undertale, Azrael. From Deltarune, Ralsei. Obviously. Are there any piano effects in the dubs by you? The We'll Meet Again cover was transcribed from a instrumentation that someone else did. I linked them in the video and basically said it was based off their interpretation. I just recreated it in my software. But it's not actually me playing it. Yep, and any sort of Silent Hill music is probably going to be the backing to any stream I do, because it's just really nice and chilled half the time. Would you like to meet Vivzy Pop someday? That'd be cool. I mean, part of me is always wondering the whole aspect of don't meet your heroes, but... Not that I can really say she's a hero of mine as such, but I do appreciate what she's made. I think we'll probably go for maybe another 10 minutes or so. So if you have any burning things to say them now, or forever hold your peace until maybe when I do this again. The stream will be saved, hopefully for playback. I just need to make sure that YouTube does it properly and that it doesn't get taken down for copyright because of the music I've been playing. Do you have a favourite Undertale soundtrack? I really like the final boss theme with Azrael. Was it Hopes and Dreams, I think it's called? And thank you, Tyro. I'm always aiming to make it sound better. Favourite singer? That's a difficult one. In terms of just the way their voice sounds, Pink. In terms of the creativity behind their music, Lady Gaga. As actual vocalists go. But then you also have a lot of other genres where, you know, the classic jazz singers of the time, or Emmy Evans from the work that she's done, things like that. I'm glad you've all had fun. It has been enjoyable. I wasn't expecting this sort of turnout or response, so Favorite and least favorite fandom? Fandom's subjective. I think they all have good and bad points. I think that the ones that maybe define themselves by what they enjoy are a bit too much, because then they start trying to control aspects of it in terms of, you can't do this because I don't like it. That aspect of fandom as in a general concept I can't stand, and that's applicable to any of them. But they all have their good points. They all have very good creators. They have great artists, musicians, everything, which is the reason why I'm doing this. What would you want the first episode of Has Been to be about? I want them to establish what the actual structure going forward is. Because right now they have a really good setup, but I have no way of knowing how they're going to carry the show forward in terms of, is it going to be like every episode's going to be a Sinner of the Week? Is there going to be an overarching narrative? Like, what's happening with that? I want them to establish what's actually happening on a per episode basis first. Yeah, people have been gushing over Valentino's voice for quite a while, so thank you. Brandon, that's not the sort of question I'll answer on here, but I guess I appreciate the interest. Yeah, Weeby, a lot of Gaga songs would work well for a lot of has-been characters. Especially Chromatica, actually. A lot of stuff on there would do it. Yeah, Weirdo. It's pretty much when they kind of lose restraint, I should say. What do you think will happen in Hell of a Boss Episode 3? I think they'll be sent on a contract. Oh no, I actually think it's going to be a flashback to how Stolas met Blitz. Just because he looks different. And they'll have met somewhere in the Lust Circle. Do I like how anime food looks? Depends on the anime. And the food. Yeah, Bloody Mary would actually be a really good one for him as well, now you mention it. Yeah, again, as I've said before, I'm always looking out for other songs that I can make with these voices I can do. It's just a matter of the song itself, and I always want to make sure I choose something that relates to that character in some way, rather than just choosing a random one that think, hey, that'd be cool in that voice. Oh yeah, Kiri Yamaoka is a bad man. He can go from really calming ambient electronics to pure screaming horror noises in the space of 2 tracks. Thank you, Bryant. I've heard that one before, actually, where people are like, I can't read his voice in any other way. I'm like, well, I've accomplished something then. Any Angel covers coming up? Not Angel covers. I'm going to do one of You'll Be Okay, the Stolas one. And I have ideas for Angel covers, including, as Heavenly says, possibly Show and Tell. But that one is going to be a bitch, because the backing instrumentation is so complex. That's going to take a lot of work. But maybe. Just keep an eye out. But maybe. Just keep an eye out. I don't know if I'm gonna do You Will Be Okay as Stolas or just sing it. I imagine as Stolas would be easier just because it fits what we already know about him, but it will be the extended version, you know, with the lyrics that got cut, so... I mean, I've heard people say that too. I feel my version of Stolas is... I can get those soft aspects of his voice down, but I need to work on how he sounds like when he gets annoyed or, like, angry. I don't think I match it quite as well as I want to yet. But thank you. Oh, man. How long have we been going? Let me look at things. How long have we been going? I don't know how long I've been going. I've lost track. What was it? Started at 10. It's now almost 1:45, so close to 3 hours. I thought I was going to struggle to stretch it out to 1, so thank you all for giving me a lot to talk about. You're very welcome for being here. I won't say I'm tired, it's just my voice is wearing out. Because I don't usually talk at length for this amount of time. So... what other series and games am I a fan of? Oh, I could be here forever talking about that. I've gone from like one obsession to the next over the years. I've got too many to pick from. Highlights would be How to Train Your Dragon, Ratchet and Clank, has been, obviously. Mass Effect, Mirror's Edge, Nier. Just a lot. Yes, Adam, I want to do other franchises if I can. I know they're not as popular amongst a lot of people, but I want to expand the range of things I do. And the current ones I have in the works are an official Aliens comic called Dead Orbit and a snapshot from a Spider-Man comic. Are you going to do longer comics in the future? That'll depend on the comic. If an artist makes a really long one, I'll do the long one. There's one I am keeping an eye on that's called Alleyway by... What's the name of the artist again? I can't remember. They go by Obsessed Katie. I want to do that one when it's finished, but I'm still waiting on the final 2 pages to be completed. But that's quite a long one. I'll need to employ Dragon Scale skills for that one, because her Charlie is, like, near perfect. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm that awkward. Just a little bit. Mostly. As far as I know, Sketchy, it still has 2 pages to go before it's finished. It's out of 12 and I only have 10. If you want to send dub suggestions to me, you either leave them in comments or you can send me an email. Either or. Have you heard of Incredibox? Can't say I have, unfortunately. I'm just chilling out to this, man. Akira Yamaoka just makes such relaxing tunes, I should say. It's a shame he stopped working on the games after a while. Before Hasbin, who was your favourite character you voiced? I didn't really try voicing anyone before I did officially with Hasbin. In terms of ones I liked to do, again, there's so many over the years. How would I rate this stream out of 10? I'd say pretty high up there, because I was not expecting this sort of turnout of response, so at least a 9 for me personally. Do you have any plans for making my own series or an audio drama? Not really. I don't think I'm creative enough to make something brand new original, which is why everything I do is based off someone else's work. But, again, never say never. I can't rule it out, I just don't have plans to. If you make comics of your own you want me to dub them, then by all means, send them my way. Again, my only criteria for a good comic dub is that I would prefer them to be as a very consistent and good art style, and also be completed, not in pieces. But apart from that, it doesn't matter what the subject is. Movies do I like? Mostly horror. There's very few. There's also a particular brand of movie. It's not really a genre, but it's one that I wish got more traction. It's one that me and some people I know have dubbed competent professional. It's essentially just any movie that has people in it who do their jobs exceptionally well. Like, they're really, like, you know, very well-trained secret agents or government workers, anything like that. It's just satisfying to see a movie that has people be good at what they're doing. Out of the 2 video game legends, you prefer Sonic or Mario? I have more experience with Sonic than Mario, so I'll say Sonic. But I'm gonna sound like a game journalist is here. He has not had a good couple of years. If you're making a comic for me, I have an email link on my YouTube page that you can send to me. I don't really have any other social media platforms at the moment. Random question, are you a small bean or tall bean? I'm probably a medium bean in terms of height. Actually, fun fact, my first ever Sonic game was Shadow's game, and I still don't think that people gave that one a fair chance. As for what Bean is doing right now, she is hiding away completely. It's about time she was asleep. Who would you say is a more interesting moral dilemma? Batman or Deadpool? Well, Deadpool has his moments of being serious, but I don't think they're enough. I think Batman probably has stronger things than that. Have you seen the Sonic fan dubs? I've not really seen any Sonic fan dubs. Which character do you enjoy voicing the most? It depends. It used to be Angel, but I've really enjoyed doing anything related to Valentino, because people seem to react to him very well. What do you think about all the Sonic memes? I mean, there's a lot. I suppose I'm a little bit thankful that the social media team they have is in on most of them, but I don't know. My sense of humor isn't just related to, like, he is a meme. If you want to animate something, maybe you can do what you like. You don't need permission if you want to make something for me. Actually, weirdo, I think I have heard of that one. I just can't remember who it's by, but again, never say never. If you were asked to be Valentino's voice actor of Hasm, would you do it? Well, duh. If I was approached to do it, of course I would, but I just never set my expectations that high because I know it's not going to happen. It'd be nice, but it won't. Have you seen the Sonic movie? I have. It's surprisingly good when I was expecting it to be awful. Don't worry about it, Weeby. It's all I can really say to a lot of these suggestions, actually, is never say never, because I can't really guarantee what I'm going to do next, because I don't stick to a schedule or a certain type of comic I want to do. So... You plan on going to voice acting? I've considered it. It'd just be a matter of finding an audition or something to go for, but yeah. Well, thank you. It's just something I've noticed that whenever it's whenever it is a subject that isn't strictly has-been or Helliver, it doesn't get as much attention, but you know, as long as some people still watch it, I'm not bothered. I didn't start doing this for views. I'm not one of those YouTubers that's always like, comment, subscribe if you want more, because that feels so not genuine to me. Can you do Val's voice now? I'm gonna have to hold off on doing voice things now just because of how long I've been talking now. It wouldn't sound right without the effects I apply to him anyway. It wouldn't be very good, but I appreciate the interest.
All will be forgiven their sins when the paradise we have long dreamed for will arrive.
Do you know who Daz Games is? The name sounds familiar. I don't think I've ever seen anything of theirs. Yes, the Hollow Knight one was really good to do as well. Because those characters kind of have voices, but don't really because they don't speak in an actual language. So trying to imagine how they would sound was interesting. I debated on so many different variants for Quirrell's voice. I imagined giving him a more, for lack of a better term, foreign accent compared to me. The one that I eventually settled with on making him sound general American. Were there any characters that you were surprised you could do? I'm surprised that people liked the Stolas one so much. Especially on the last recent ones I've done, because there's parts of that where I listen back and I'm thinking I could have done better in this aspect, but people seem to like it. Also Husk, because I never thought I could get his gravel, but it turns out that just waking up early gives you it, so who knows. Any favorite MCU movie if you've watched any? I don't really watch a lot of superhero movies. There's kind of been so many of them that I just got bored of it. Ah, thank you, Lemiginarium. It's always nice to see someone closer to my neck of the woods enjoying what I do. Thank you. Are there any comics that you 100% won't do so that we won't ask for it? There's no specific ones I can say for certain I wouldn't do, but basically it's anything that isn't YouTube appropriate I won't touch, for obvious reasons. What are your opinions on some of the Sonic ships? Same attitude I have towards the has-been ships. It's, if people like it, good for them. There's occasional artwork that's quite sweet, but apart from that, I don't dabble in it. I have no opinions because I don't get involved. Favorite character in My Hero Academia? Tokiyami. By far. I wish he got more screen time. Just because his power's cool and he seems like an interesting character, but... Oh, don't get me wrong, Weirdo. I'm an absolute deviant in almost every regard possible, but it's just YouTube, you know? Oh, man. Now the real question is am I joking or not? Whose voice would you say was toughest or requires a lot of preparation? Blitz and Husk, by far, just because they're my weakest. I need to practice a lot with them before I become close to comfortable with what I record them as. Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it has now just reached 1 AM. So I think I'm gonna probably have to call it there. But, you know, a 3-hour runtime with that amount of, you know, integration and feedback and everything you've given me is wonderful. And I can't thank any of you enough, more than enough, for hanging out with me for this long. So thank you again for all your questions. Thank you again for coming behind the scenes with me. And I'll see you next time whenever I make a new one. Have a good night, everyone. Goodbye.